I remember sitting in that tiny, crowded coffee shop in the heart of Rome, feeling like a total failure. I had studied the language for years, but when the waiter asked me a simple, everyday question, my mind went completely blank. It was humiliating. But then, right there amidst the smell of roasting coffee, it hit me. I was trying to run a marathon before I even learned how to breathe correctly. I changed everything the very next morning. It wasn't about the 3-hour study sessions. It was about the ritual of the first 5 minutes after waking up.
That is such a powerful and relatable shift in perspective. Welcome back to Speak English with Luna, everyone. This is the place where we bridge the gap between your mindset and your English fluency. Today, we are exploring a total game changer, the first 5 minutes, a morning routine for English fluency. We have the brilliant Dr. Elias Thorne with us to explain why your brain needs a specific warm-up before it can truly perform in a second language. Elias, you mentioned those first 5 minutes are the key. Most people wake up and immediately check their emails or scroll through social media. Thoughtfully, why is that the ultimate fluency killer for a language learner?
Because you're surrendering your focus to the world. When you check your phone, you are in reactive mode. To master English, you need to be in creative mode. Those first 5 minutes set the neurological tone for the day. If you start with English, you're signaling to your brain that this language isn't a distant chore, it's your immediate reality.
Elias, let's get practical. Many of our listeners are right at that intermediate level where they understand a lot but feel stuck when they try to speak. What is the very first thing they should do when their eyes open? What does that B1 level routine look like?
It's simpler than most people think, Luna. I call it the morning monologue. The moment you wake up, instead of reaching for your phone, I want you to narrate your life for just 5 minutes. As you are making your coffee or brushing your teeth, describe your actions out loud in English. Instead of thinking in your native language, say to yourself, I am waking up. I feel a bit tired, but the sun is shining. Now I am going to make a delicious cup of coffee.
I love that. It's like a warm-up exercise for your brain. It bridges the gap between your thoughts and the language without the pressure of a real conversation. Okay, everyone, let's stop for a second for our first vocabulary checkpoint. Listeners, pay attention to these 3 essential expressions Dr. Elias just used or implied. To be in a rush. This means you're moving fast because you don't have much time. To get into the habit. This is when you start doing something regularly until it becomes automatic. To make progress. This is when you improve your skills or get closer to a goal.
Exactly. When you're in a rush in the morning, you usually forget your English goals. But if you get into the habit of these 5 minutes of narration, you will make progress much faster than someone who only studies for 3 hours once a week. It's about the frequency of the connection, not just the intensity of the study.
That is such a vital distinction, frequency over intensity. Before we move deeper, I have a quick challenge for you listening at home or on your way to work. What is the very first English word you want to say out loud when you wake up tomorrow morning? Is it success? Is it opportunity? Or maybe just coffee? Leave a comment on our platform and let us know. We want to see your morning energy. Elias, why is this narration so much more effective for a B1 student than just reading a book?
Because reading is passive. Speaking your thoughts is active. When you describe your environment, you are forced to find the words for the world around you. You stop being a student of English and you start being a speaker of English.
Elias, what you just said about active narration makes perfect sense for getting the gears turning, but I want to go deeper. Many of our listeners feel like they hit a glass ceiling at the intermediate level. They can describe what they are doing, but there's this invisible barrier when they try to express complex feelings or professional concepts. It's like their brain shuts down when things get serious. This brings us to a more advanced psychological territory. How can the morning routine help break through that B2 level plateau?
That is a profound observation, Luna. To explain this, I need to share the story of a former patient of mine, Sarah. Sarah was a high-level executive, incredibly sharp, but her affective filter was constantly through the roof. Now, for those listening who aren't familiar with the term, the affective filter is a psychological barrier that prevents information from reaching the part of the brain responsible for language acquisition. If you are stressed, bored, or self-conscious, that filter is high, and your fluency drops to zero.
So even if you know the grammar and the words, if that filter is up, the door to your vocabulary is basically locked?
Precisely. Sarah would wake up every morning and the very first thing she did was check the international financial news in English. She thought she was being productive, however, she felt miserable. Her brain began to associate the English language with stress, market crashes, and the pressure of her job. She was inadvertently training her nervous system to see English as a threat. What we did was radically shift her focus during those crucial first 5 minutes using a technique called positive emotional anchoring.
That sounds fascinating. Instead of data and stress, what did she start doing? How do you anchor a language to a positive emotion when you're still half asleep?
We introduced a state of mind narrative. I told her, Sarah, stop reading the news. I want you to use those 5 minutes to talk to yourself about your intentions for the day, but with a specific linguistic twist. Instead of saying, I have a meeting, she had to use high-level adjectives to describe her internal state. She started saying things like, today I am choosing to be resilient. I will approach my challenges with clarity and empathy. This changes everything, Luna. She wasn't just translating facts anymore. She was translating her identity.
Wow. So by linking English to her emotions and her self-image right when she woke up, she was essentially reprogramming her brain to accept the language as a natural part of her soul, not just a tool for work. But Elias, let's talk about the theta state. I've heard that the brain is more plastic or open to new information right after we wake up. Is that why these 5 minutes are so much more powerful than an hour of study in the evening?
Absolutely. When you first wake up, your brain is transitioning from delta and theta waves into alpha waves. In the theta state, your subconscious is incredibly receptive. It's the super learning zone. If the first thing you put into that zone is a stressful email, you're in trouble. But if you put in 5 minutes of sophisticated, intentional English, you are etching those patterns into your long-term memory. For a B2 learner, this is where you move from learning about English to living in English. I encourage Sarah to move into narrative visualization.
Narrative visualization? That sounds like something a professional athlete would do. Tell us more about how that works for a language learner.
It's exactly what athletes do. Sarah would close her eyes, still lying in bed, and describe a successful scenario she wanted to achieve that day, all out loud in English. She would describe the firm texture of the handshake, the confident tone of her own voice, and the feeling of satisfaction after a successful negotiation. She was building a linguistic memory palace. Because she was in that relaxed morning state, her brain couldn't distinguish between the practice and the reality.
This is a total game changer. You're saying we can actually trick our brains into being more fluent by practicing success before the day even starts? Listeners, think about the power of that. If you spend 5 minutes describing not just what you see, but how you feel and who you want to be, you are forcing your brain out of the B1 comfort zone and into the B2 C1 territory of abstract thought and emotional nuance.
Exactly. And the best part? It lowers the affective filter permanently over time. After a few weeks, Sarah found that when she actually got into those high-pressure meetings, the English words didn't feel like foreign objects she had to find. They felt like her own thoughts. She had bridged the gap. She was no longer a student, she was a speaker.
It's about frequency, intention, and biology, not just opening a textbook. Elias, this is so empowering. I think we've just given our audience the most valuable 5 minutes of their day. As we pivot into more sophisticated territory, it's clear that reaching the C1 level isn't just about knowing more words, it's about the precision and the nuance of how we use them. Elias, you've talked about the affective filter, but at this advanced stage, we also deal with cognitive load. When our listeners are trying to navigate high stakes environments, how does this morning routine help them manage that mental weight?
That's a sophisticated question, Luna. For a C1 speaker, the goal is seamlessness. You want your English to be as visceral as your native tongue. The cognitive load is the amount of mental effort being used in the working memory. When you haven't warmed up your English brain in those first 5 minutes, your brain has to work twice as hard to translate complex thoughts into syntax. By establishing this morning ritual, you are essentially performing a subconscious recalibration. You are telling your prefrontal cortex, we are operating in English today. Clear the path. This allows you to focus on the strategy of your conversation rather than the mechanics of the grammar.
Subconscious recalibration. I love that phrasing. It's about making the language an intrinsic part of your cognitive process. Now it's time for a very special part of our show. It's time for the golden word. Elias, what is the one word you believe encapsulates the spirit of this morning routine for someone striving for C1 mastery?
The golden word for today is intentionality. In a C1 context, intentionality is the fact of being deliberate or purposive. It's the difference between just waking up and waking up with an objective. When you approach your English with intentionality, you aren't just practicing, you are sculpting your reality. You are choosing your words with surgical precision to reflect your highest self.
Intentionality. What a powerful golden word. It suggests a level of control and mastery that every advanced learner craves. And now I want to issue the community challenge to everyone listening. I want you to take this concept of intentionality and put it into practice. This week, during your first 5 minutes of English narration, I want you to record a 30-second voice memo on your phone.
And here's the twist for the C1 challenge. Don't just talk about your day. I want you to describe a philosophical concept or a complex emotion you are feeling. Use the word intentionality in a sentence that describes your growth. Share those recordings or write your sentences in our community forum. We want to hear the resonance of your voices.
Exactly. Show us your fortitude and your commitment. Let's see how intentional this community can be. Elias, why is recording ourselves so vital at this level?
Because it provides an objective mirror. When you listen back, you hear the nuance, or the lack of it. It forces you to confront your filler words and encourages you to reach for more eloquent alternatives. It's the final polish on the diamond of your fluency.
It is time for our word tour. Let's lock in these 5 key terms from today's episode so you can start using them immediately. Elias, are you ready to give us the final recap?
I am indeed, Luna. Let's start with number 1, affective filter. This is the invisible wall of stress or self-consciousness that blocks your learning. Keep it low by starting your morning with a positive, safe routine. Number 2, to get into the habit. It's the process of making an action automatic. If you commit to these 5 minutes every day, you won't need motivation. You'll have a habit.
Number 3, intentionality, our golden word of the day. It means being deliberate and purposeful. Don't just let life happen to you. Speak your day into existence with focus. Number 4, visceral. We want your English to feel visceral, deeply felt and instinctive, rather than a robotic translation in your head.
And finally, number 5, to make progress. Remember that fluency isn't a giant leap, it's the result of small daily steps. You make progress every time you choose to speak instead of scroll.
What an incredible session, Dr. Thorne. Thank you for showing us that fluency isn't a destination, it's a morning ritual. To our listeners, you have the power to change your brain in just 5 minutes tomorrow morning. Don't reach for your phone, reach for your voice. Speak your truth, describe your world, and lower that filter. You are more capable than you realize, and your English is a reflection of your beautiful, intentional mind. Join our community, take the voice memo challenge, and we will see you in the next episode of Speak English with Luna. Keep dreaming, keep speaking, and keep being intentional. Goodbye for now.
Goodbye, everyone. Remember, be kind to your mind.